Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Osmania 4 Key World Cup 2023. We're back at it once again to kick off the semifinals round, and there are so many teams vying for a spot in the finals. Gonna need to settle some debates here before too long. We will say goodbye to one of the two teams that we have before you to start off this weekend. We have the Philippines going up against Canada. As always, my name is Sparky, and I am joined in the commentary booth by none other than Sunapple. Sunapple, how are you doing?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm doing super well. Wasn't able to commentate last week, and I'm super excited to be able to commentate the first match of this week. Here we have the Philippines versus Canada here. And honestly, this is going to be a very interesting match. I know before the match started, we were talking about how Philippines actually doesn't have Boji and Volpsy. So this is going to be an interesting match just because of that. Even though the Philippines themselves, even with just Siluesca L's, A-Pole, Cub, and 7Ken, they're still really, really good. So, so many things that can come from this match alone, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. They're both absent, like you mentioned, for different extenuating reasons. You gotta love it when life gets in the way sometimes, but like you said, there's plenty of firepower left in that Philippines roster to give Canada a run for the money. A Canadian team that has slowly but surely started making the run through that losers bracket, able to make it through unscathed through the quarterfinals for a shot at the second half of the semifinals weekend. The Philippines, of course, losing a very hard-fought battle against Brazil in that winners quarterfinals to find themselves here. And it's going to be pretty interesting. I imagine the lineups are going to be pretty close, and we're probably going to see a bit of a dichotomy begin to develop of Rice versus LN before too long, especially with this map pool getting as large as it is now. There's basically something for everybody to play.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Canada have such a really strong Rice lineup here, and the Philippines have just basically one of the best LN lineups in the game right now. So it will be interesting to see. We do see Canada winning the role and actually going to be able to protect first. Canada also, something to remember, has been really, really good at these SV maps just because they have three really great SV players. And I would assume, honestly, they may be wanting to protect some sort of SV map right here just because of that. Though, with that being said, Philippines also has been really star-studded with their SV team. So it's honestly not as black and white as it may seem for these protects.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of those situations where in matches prior, we've clearly had a SV frontrunner that's definitely looking to stake a claim in that bottom half of the map pool. But between these two lineups, like you were saying, Canada really stepping up their game. I mean, they've always had a pretty decent SV roster, but this one this year seems to be a cut above the rest. And the Philippines, with Cub being in that lineup, looking to round out and have two supporting players, I mean, that's probably going to be where a lot of the duels are going to be decided. And I mean, they're not as up for grabs as they have been in weeks past. It'll be very interesting to see if they get looked at, protected, or banned.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Honestly, I'm not sure whether they will get banned, since both these teams are actually quite often practice both SV maps just because they feel decently confident. So we may actually be seeing more of a Rice ban for Philippines and then an LN ban for Canada, since we were talking about that earlier, how this is a Rice versus LN matchup. Probably for the Philippines, honestly, going for something a bit harder, like the From song, Rice, I believe, 7. That one is definitely something that could easily get banned for the Philippines just because of the difficulty alone.
Yeah, for sure. And while we were talking about that, Canada did throw out their protected. It is going to be SV1, and Philippines responding with Lemming, so an LN protect as well. So currently focusing on this lower half of the map pool, Philippines up to ban now. You wonder if maybe they'll flip the script a little bit, maybe get rid of SV2, and sure enough, Showdown does get removed from this pool, maybe limiting some of the options from Canada, not really wanting to get into an SV duel, if at all possible.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Honestly, this ban definitely makes a lot of sense, but I'm not sure whether it's definitely the best ban. I will have to see how good Philippines' Rice lineup is right now, just because of that, but I feel like having the option of SV2 for that Philippines team can definitely help them out, especially in the later game of this match, considering how many points you need to win now that this pool is just so big.
Yeah, for sure. It's already growing exponentially in size, and Canada actually wanted to ban SV2 also, just based on the conversations we're seeing in the chat. Either that or maybe just getting some confirmations there. But it looks like they are just starting to fill in maybe the latecomers to see what is going to be the plan of action from here on out.
Yeah, I think there are some troubles in the lobby right now, and as we did say earlier, Canada protecting SV1, Philippines protecting LN1. Canada will be banning actually Hybrid 1 here. And then just like to re-say it again, for anybody who's just come in, Philippines did ban SV2. So now it'll be, I believe, Canada's pick here. So most likely going to be going for the Rice side of things, since, you know, something that could be chosen pretty early on, especially since a lot of people kind of feel confident in these first few picks. Maybe something like Rice 1, or you want to go for something a lot more difficult in like Rice 5 or Rice 7 right here.
Yeah, for sure. So for right now, just waiting on that first pick to come out. And I mean, we could probably go on forever about just how open this map pool is for both of these countries. But I imagine some final deliberations are probably going to be taking place here. And despite the fact that we are talking about how this is probably going to shape up to be an LN versus Rice matchup, the fact that Canada got rid of one of the hybrids instead of one of the dedicated LNs tells me that they at least feel somewhat confident going into the full breadth of that LN pool, the different stylings, and adding that fourth LN pick, maybe not deterring them as much as something like Hybrid 1, for instance.
Yeah, I definitely, just looking at the Canadian roster themselves, I kind of feel like there's two modes of the Canadian roster, to where there's more of a Rice and more of an LN mode. So maybe they just don't really want to pick in that in between for the hybrids, or they want to have less options for the Philippines to be able to pick in that later stages if this does go like breakpoint after breakpoint or whatever, so that they have kind of the easier hybrids that they feel more confident in. And we will actually be seeing just the straight protect from Canada here, SV1 and me.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty good first option to get into. Go into that protect on it. You've practiced for the entire week, feel pretty comfortable on. Sure, the gimmicks get a little bit harder as we move on through the pools, but with how consistent these two lineups have been, it'll be very interesting to see how both teams stack up. Now we've gotten rid of SV2 as well.
Yeah, and I believe these are going to be the lineups for both teams, Dale, Piggy, and May for Canada. And interesting enough, we won't be seeing Cub, who I believe has been playing the SVs for Philippines. Instead, we'll be seeing 7 Cancel, Els, and Apol right now.
Yeah, barring any last-second substitutions from either country. It looks like, oh, and actually right on cue, here comes Cub looking to try and muscle their way into this 3-man roster for the Philippines. And we're going to see 7 can actually depart to get Cub in here.
Yeah, that definitely does make a lot more sense. Cub has been playing really, really well on those SV maps in the past few weeks. Definitely something that they kind of have to have in this Philippine roster. Even though they are super, super strong, against Canada, it's really hard to be able to win any kind of the SV picks. Just off of, because they've been practicing so much for all of these SV maps. And if they're picking it and have protected it first, that definitely shows that they have at least a bit of practice on this map alone.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of those conversations you need to have as a team where it's like, okay, maybe our scores aren't the best on this, but they should be at least higher than our opponents. It'll be very interesting to see how this develops. Either the Philippines pick up a interesting breakpoint or Canada starts us off on the right foot. Either way, there's really not that big of a margin for error for either of these countries as we get into this first map of this now best of 13.
That number is so big at this point, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
So many. We've just started right here. Nothing that interesting, honestly. Something to note, though, is that this is OD7. I believe that was actually a miss immediately from Apol right there, not a Bancho thing. So, interesting to see.
yeah, just getting caught out by one of these quick teleports right out of the gate here. Thankfully, one of the first notes of the map, it is going to hurt their accuracy very early on, and another couple of breaks to boot. Trying to ghost tap their way through it, this map does punish you if you are off with those ghost taps. Definitely a bit of a double-edged sword there, and the only person finding any breaks so far in this lobby is going to give Canada an immediate 50,000 point lead right out of the gate here.
Yeah, all those breaks from April are really hurting them, but on top of that, most of the players on Canada being above that 99 mark, May being the only one around that 98, but that being said, Philippines doesn't really have anybody that close to them besides Cub.
Yeah, it's definitely working out very favorably for Canada at the moment. They have all their players holding on to their FCs for the moment. The only real player offering any bit of resistance right now on the side of the Philippines is Cub. So Luska L is doing everything in her power to try and keep things as close as possible to somebody like May, but with A-Pole bringing up the rear in that 86% mark, it's really not doing much in favor of bringing that score back anytime soon. It's already growing to about 200,000 points, and Cub now falls as well. So only one FC left on the board for the Philippines, as Canada making quick work of this chart, about 2/3 in and already basically over and done with.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot for the Philippines to be able to even have a chance at winning this 200k difference, and that's only rising right now. Most likely it's going to get closer to that 300k, as with A-Pole's misses and constant 200s that are coming out. We only have a fourth of the map left, so just Canada doing their best just to be able to get as good of a score as possible. Dale does take a break, but really that doesn't matter, especially considering the 85% for April right now.
Yeah, dropping the bucket right now for what has been a very dominant start to this match. Canada knew what they wanted to get the ball rolling here, and as this chart comes to an end, a dominating first map from the Canadians, taking it 0-1 to start this match off.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good thing to see if you are a Canadian player. You'd have that morale boost, seeing that you kind of just destroyed the Philippines right now on the SV. But that is the SV. There's only one of those left, so we won't be seeing any more of those. It is going to be Philippines' pick right here. I do want to add, though, Cub actually having the best accuracy in the lobby, not counting that miss, but P having the best score, actually.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the Philippines know what they want to go for already. They're already picking Lost-ology here. So sticking to what we were describing when this match started, Philippines going to opt to linger around this lower half of the map pool. Going to go for LN4 to try and right the ship a little bit here. That was... usually I would say that'd be a pretty decent licking to take at the start of a match, but I don't think the Philippines was in any real headspace to go into SV1, so maybe just an opportunity to brush things off, get the nerves out, kind of cleanse the palate a little bit before getting into the actual match proceedings.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Playing the LN here right now is basically what we're going to be seeing a lot for the Philippines, especially with just such a good LN roster with Suluska, Els, A-Pole, and what is most likely going to be 7Ken, just because I think it's gotten to the point where the difficulty is hard enough so that Cub isn't going to be able to play the maps as well, but instead 7Ken will actually be able to play super well, especially with their combo ability. But on Canada, something that we've been seeing a lot as this roster right here with the Walmart, Dale, and May for all the LNs. But honestly, it will be based off this third player for both the team. Really being the deciding factor for these LN picks that we will be seeing.
Yeah, for sure. And judging by the way things are going, it doesn't look like we're going to have any substitutions, so it will be Cub staying in for the Philippines as opposed to somebody like 7Ken. It just bears reminding Philippines running a little bit light here, so going to have to make do with what they have and see if they can put their best foot forward here on their first pick, trying to answer back, or see if Canada can pick up the first break point in this match. They definitely have the roster to do it, as they have been so far during this tournament.
Yeah, and here we go. Starting off, we are actually seeing a slight lead in favor of the Philippines, mostly off of ACK. Dale having a slightly lower ACK compared to everybody else, most likely just finding a few 200s at this intro, which is very understandable. Even this intro alone is really easy to find 200s on. But as we get further into the map, this lead is actually growing slightly for the Philippines, most likely just because of a bunch of 200s coming out from all the Canadian players.
Yeah, their average accuracy for their top players hovering about that 99.6 mark. Dale, like you mentioned earlier, picking up a couple of extra 300s, 200s for the road, lingering in that low 99% mark, still holding on to their FC very importantly, but right now the Philippines putting on a bit of a clinic here, 99.7s across the board. Definitely a much stronger performance compared to that SV1 run, and they're starting to pull out a bit of a lead here, just based off of this accuracy alone. All 6 FCs still left on the table as we make our way into the second third of the chart.
Yeah, we see Dale get a rush of 200s in these little LN bursts right now, and that's really causing the accuracy difference to just grow, and the score lead is just increasing so quickly for the Philippines. It is at 21k right now. So that means the Philippines actually has quite a bit of room for misses, and here we go. We see Apol and Dale trade, but that's obviously going to go in favor of the Philippines just because their accuracy alone.
Yeah, for sure. That was starting to quickly become the lowest accuracy for the Philippines, so it didn't do that much damage, and the fact that they got traded with Dale definitely helped mitigate some of the bleeding. The one good thing about these LN charts as we get further and further into the tournament, and as Cub finds a drop in this bit of a quote-unquote calm section before things start to pick up once again, it doesn't feel like you get any sort of breaks, but the 10 does let up a little bit. These trades do favor the Philippines when all is said and done, despite the fact that that one didn't get traded back from Cub, from either Walmart May or Dale. The fact that they have such an advantage in terms of their accuracy from Soloweska Els, and the supporting combo from Apol and Cub as May finds the next drop as well, and that's going to help balloon this lead in favor of the Philippines. It's basically smooth sailing and a pretty decent answer back for the Philippines to try and put up some sort of resistance against its Canadian roster.
Yeah, this lead is just too strong for the Canadian roster to be able to take, even with a few breaks from Cub or Apol right now. We are getting at the end right here, and Philippines will be able to take their point right back, making it tied at 1-1 right now.
Yeah, very strong showings across the board. A couple of breaks, but a couple of FCs surviving as well. Stand-up performance. Soloweska Els, of course, the forefront of the LN scene so far for the past year or so. Only 6 200s to their name, best ratio and accuracy as well.
Yeah, but now it's going to be Canada's pick right here. They don't have any more SVs left, so it'll be a bit trickier to be able to understand really what to pick. But Rice really is just what kind of the easiest thing to pick. Maybe hybrids if you want to try, but honestly, just looking at that LN squad or that LN score, I feel like it'd just be better to stick to this higher side of the pool. Maybe going for something super hard, and I'm in no mood for this, or Rice 7 here.
Yeah, for sure. Both of those are definitely on the more abrasive side. There's definitely very varying levels of abrasion for both of those charts, but both definitely trending on the upper end of the needle for the Rice charts in the semifinals pool. That, or they can go for something more bog standard. You can go for stuff like Rice 1 or 2. It really just depends on how high you want to push the BPM. And it is going to be Rice 2 here, so thinking of you going to come out for Canada.
Yeah, we will be seeing the lighter jump string pick to be chosen right here. A lot of room for error, especially on this map alone. There are quite a few, I guess, mini jacks. They're more implied mini jacks, so they are a bit easier to place. But still, it doesn't mean that they're really easy, and especially with this Philippines roster not having kind of their star-studded Rice players, it'll be interesting to see. Semifinals will be replacing Apol here, and then Walmart or GDM will be replacing Walmart for the Canadian roster.
Yeah, some final adjustments being made from both sides. This is starting to push the ceilings of the players. I think we'll see it develop more as this weekend goes on, where you see combo breaks happen a little bit more often. and players generally falling off towards the ends of these maps as they try and push hard through the beginning to maintain good accuracy. And then maybe if the physicality just isn't there, especially with the way these rice picks have been ramping up, we'll start to see some players fall by the wayside. But for these higher end teams, these higher seeded teams, we'll probably just see more of the same as we have, and just a bunch of 990,000 scores, and we'll probably be yelling about how good the accuracies are, and we'll wonder what we have to do to finally push some of these players.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Some of these players are a bit insane. I would be looking at May here for the Canadian squad if you want to be seeing some really good scores as long as they don't miss, which has actually been happening a lot. Something that I do want to talk about is the consistency for May hasn't really been there, especially compared to some other players. So can definitely help the Philippines here, especially considering having actually a decent Rice lineup, even with the loss of Volpsy and Boji.
Yeah, for sure. And this is basically going to be one of the better consistency tests outside of maybe something like Rice 1 for both of these lineups to really kind of square up each other in terms of the more bog standard Rice picks going forward in this match. And right now we see teams basically neck and neck inside of about 1,000 points, give or take about a couple of hundredths of a percent in terms of accuracy. But in just an instant, all you need is one tiny little hiccup and a couple of trades back and forth. May, Soloweska Els, and Cub all falling going into the second quarter of this chart. That trade helps on Canada in this regard, but it's going to be the road to recovery that's going to make all the difference here as we get later into this chart.
Yeah, and I do want to let note one, Soloweska Els does take a break. However, Philippines did actually have the advantage right before all those breaks happened. So if Canada does continue to take those misses, it can actually go in favor of Philippines, but it's looking like the Philippines is actually going to be the one that are taking more misses. Cub double breaking right there, and maybe not able to keep up with the physicality, continuing to take these drops. And this lead is looking just really, really good for Canada. They can take probably 2 to 3 misses at this point.
Yeah, density being relatively the same, just speedier, and I think we were seeing it in the IRC chat before the match started, Cub lamenting the 271 BPM. It does definitely push you to your limits, and we can see a couple more breaks coming out from the side of the Philippines, helping grow this lead for Canada. And despite the fact that May being the only casualty for the Canadians, highest accuracy for them, really picking up the pace here as GDM finds a couple of misses as well, but this lead has grown to a point where it would take a lot more than that to give the Philippines any sort of chance back into this map. In fact, it might already be in the room of insurmountable as we approach this last sliver of chart. Cub finding another couple breaks for the road, and when this map is going to be done, Canada is going to be able to take their second point and make it 1-2 now.
Yep, and that's really good for that Canadian map or roster here. This is probably one of the more simple Rice maps, probably one of the more physical. However, something that is good to see for Canada, seeing that you have quite a big advantage on these Rice maps. But you also got to think that Philippines did have a pretty big advantage on that LN map as well. So really will be interesting to see. It is now Philippines' pick here, most likely going to go back into that LN squad or LN map pool right now.
Yeah, for sure. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe the Protect come out for the Philippines. That, or I mean, they do have LN2 and LN3 to work with, but as I say, LN3 is actually going to be the choice for the Philippines.
Yeah, it looks like Cub may not be fully warm. Some Philippines most likely won't be opting to pick LN2 as soon as possible, just because that is a bit more physical LN map, being very, very dense and taking a lot of, I guess, just raw physicality here. So most likely we'll be going LN3, then LN1, and then LN2, just while they get Cub warmed up. But I mean, we do see LN3 right now. It is a bit more of a technical-esque LN map with a lot of, I guess, jackish patterns, a lot of shields, a lot of reverse shields that you will be seeing.
Yeah, for sure. One of the, dare I say, lesser appreciated LN skill sets, being able to handle your reverse shields, your shield patternings, and it ends up making these LN picks a lot more jack oriented, like you were mentioning, and can definitely take you for a bit of a ride if you're not to keeping your fingers pressed down when you're going through your jack motions.
Yeah, but we will be seeing most likely the same lineup as we did saw for the last LN map that Philippines chose. Cub, Soloska, Els, and Apol, and same for Canada, Walmart, Dale, and May. And I would really be looking at Dale here. If they are able to get a really good score here, I think that can definitely lead to a breakpoint for Canada.
For sure, there's definitely potential for Canada to kind of just pop up and take one of these LN points, and that really throws a spanner in the works for the Philippines to try and find a way to work one of those points back in their favor. But that's a conversation for after this map. I'm going to get into this fourth map of this best of 13. Philippines looking to try and maintain parity. Canada looking to try and get their first break point, get the first leg up in this match on LN3 here.
Yep, and those eyes on the banner for Kono Hiyori are kind of scary, honestly. But we will be starting off right here. No lead necessarily, but we also really haven't gotten to the actual map. We'll be seeing these LNs right here, and they really just don't stop whenever we do see them. Philippines seeming to have a slight accuracy advantage, but that's really not that far, honestly.
Yeah, some of these near inverse-like structures, these outer column anchors can definitely take you for a bit of a ride, and it did take Dale for a bit of a ride as they find the first break in this lobby. And a pretty significant one to boot, down into the 98% range, the second one for the road now, and the lead grows to 16,000 in favor of the Canadians. May the next one to fall. Only person holding on to an FC right now is Walmart for the Canadians, but Apol finds the next drop here, trading it back, and another couple two. So this one's definitely not over yet as we make our way into the back half of the chart now. Cub falls next as well.
Yeah, we're seeing breaks left and right for all these teams. This lead is only 6k. This has been the smallest it's been for the entire match. And really, this means that one or two misses for this Philippines roster can definitely switch the lead over to Canada, but May is actually going to be the one to drop. So that lead is actually going to be increasing for Philippines alongside Walmart, the last FC for Canada, taking a miss as well. We are at this last third point. Soloska Els doing their best to hold as high of accuracy as possible, and that's been doing wonders for this Canadian team.
Yeah, for sure. 99.85, a dominant showing on this chart, really putting the team on their back at the moment to try and get this LN point, and having all three FCs down for the side of Canada definitely helps in that regard. Walmart being the only person really able to contest in this regard, but now May has taken over in terms of the accuracy front, and as this chart comes to an end, it will be Philippines maintaining the tie here, making it 2-2.
It is 2-2 right here. However, that map was a lot closer than LN4 there. And I think, as you were going to say, that score from Soloska Els is insane.
That is probably going to be one of the highest scores on this map for the weekend. 995k, a V1SS. When your team needed it the most, that is exactly how you do it. And of course, the Canadians offering a bit of resistance there. It was pretty close to start this map off, but slowly but surely, all three of them finding their breaks at different times helps solidify that lead, and goes back over to Canada.
Yeah, and we did see quite a big difference in terms of score for Rice 2. So, I mean, honestly, I would think something like Rice 3 going for a stamina map. Also, our Osu original, always something that we want to be having picked, and we will actually be picking Rice 3 right here.
Let's go, they heard you.
Level 4 for making the song.
It is a fantastic piece of music. Glad we get to hear it right out of the gate this weekend. I imagine it is going to be one of the more popular picks, hopefully, as we get deeper and deeper into the weekend. One of the longer maps in this pool, at least on the right side, clocking in at just over 3.5 minutes. 250 BPM gauntlet for both teams to go through to really put them through their paces and really test how consistent they are. Not really diving into the tech yet, and not really staying in the speedier sections of like Rice 2 or Rice 1, but definitely gonna put the players through their paces as we see some substitutions coming through for both teams.
Yeah, and as you did say, this is 250 BPM, so it is around 20 BPM slower than Rice 2 Thinking View, but with that being said, it really it's going to be interesting for this Philippines team.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, that being said, all it takes is one person having a bad run on the other team to give that breakpoint over. But with the way Canada has been playing so far on these rice picks, gonna be a bit of a tall order. Not impossible, but definitely gonna need a bit of work here. As we see the lineups here, it's gonna be GDM, Piggy, and May staying in for Canada, and so let's get Ellis Cub and 7ken for the Philippines.
Yeah, but as I was going to say, actually, I've kind of lost my train of thought before, but this 20 BPM difference actually may be in favor of the Philippines, honestly, since they are a bit less physical. However, it being 3 minutes and 30 seconds definitely isn't going to help all that much for the Philippines, just because stamina becomes such a big issue on this kind of map because of how dense it is.
Yeah, for sure. A very common theme with these charts is you see lower BPM, expect higher density, especially if you keep jump stream and hand stream in mind on this upper half of the rice pool. So it'll be interesting to see how this map develops. There's definitely quite a bit of time for both these teams to make an impact.
And we are just starting off, no real lead necessarily right now, no breaks either, but really this map doesn't start until a few seconds. And I believe it will be happening soon. Canada having a slight accuracy lead for now, but as I did say, it doesn't really matter until these jump streams start and don't really stop. They have one small break, but even then it'll still be really difficult to be able to get to that break, and Canada's lead has actually been staying in their favor, but it's only by less than 1,000 points, so it really doesn't exist, honestly, especially if any of the Canadian players get even just a 200 or a miss.
Yeah, I think that is going to be the main tail of the tape for this map, for this match, and for the rest of the weekend. Is going to come down to whoever blinks first and finds that first miss, finds that first rush of bad judgments to help swing things one way or the other. And right now the average accuracy for both these teams is probably within 100, maybe 1,000% as we get into the second third of the chart. All 6 players holding onto their FCs for the moment. Canada starting to pull away a little bit here within a couple hundred points. Grew to about 1,000 before people started finding their little slip-ups here and there, and they're not even the biggest of slip-ups. It's just 300 counts separating these two countries right now.
Yeah, I feel like this is literally just based off a ratio. Siluska Els does take a few 200s, and that does swing the lead more in favor of Canada. But even then, it's only by 4,000 points. This lead is slightly actually increasing, and we do see Cub taking a break, and that'll move the lead immediately in favor of Canada right here. It has grown so fast. All the players on Canada are just staying as consistent as possible. We will be looking for Piggy taking a lot of 200s though right now, but Cub taking more and more misses is definitely not going to help that Philippines roster as we get into the break right here.
Yeah, a chance for the players to recompose themselves, and those K9 amongst two might have been seeing Cubs starting to drop in terms of their accuracy as they tried to strain to hold on to make it to the break. Unfortunate not to be able to make it there with their combo intact, but there's still about a third of the chart left to go here. But the fact that all 3 Canadians holding on to their FCs going into this next section gonna make this a bit of a mountain to climb for the Philippines at the moment.
Yeah, it is also interesting to note that Canada also has 2 99.86s basically, whereas Philippines only has 1, and that's really been hurting them. Even with those misses, I still think that Philippines still would be in a bit of a deficit. It is a 13k gap. We do see Piggy taking a miss, and that is one step further into Philippines getting a lead, as long as all the Canadian players, even just a miss or 2, and GMM actually taking a pretty dirty drop right there. This lead is slowly moving in favor of Philippines as we get into this last bit of map.
Yeah, for sure. Canada can't afford to find any more breaks, but there goes Siluska Els trading one of those misses back, and any window of opportunity that the Philippines might have had might have just closed on that break as 7ken falls as well, and that one definitely will shut the door on this potential comeback from the Philippines. GDM takes one more for the road, but I think the damage has been done on this chart. Last burst to read through, all 6 players make it through it, and Canada will make it 2-3 now.
Wow, this is really gearing up to be an interesting match. GMM 2 200s. And then 2 100s, 250s, and 4 misses. But May, 2 200s alone, having a really, really good ratio. This is really an interesting match right now. All the players on Philippines did take a miss, but honestly, up until the ending, this map was super, super close.
Yeah, that was the slimmest margin we've had for quite a considerable amount of time for these two countries. But so far, 5 for 5 on both countries taking their own picks. So, I mean, so far as things stand, these two are in a deadlock, and we're going to need to find a way to break it before too long, whether it come via breakpoints or with that tiebreaker coming through here. But it is going to be Super Nuka World, so going against what we were predicting for the Philippines in terms of their LN strategy. We were thinking LN1, then LN2, but it seems like they might have warmed up enough to feel confident to take this LN density chart and gonna roll the dice here on it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Philippines picking LN2 first. I mean, honestly, it really doesn't matter. But
Right.
I would much more prefer LN1 being a bit less physical. But as I said, it doesn't really matter all that much. We do see 290 BPM kind of jump stream LN here. And I would assume this is still going to be... Actually, we'll be seeing 7Ken instead of 8 pull for this LN roster for Philippines.
Yeah, it might be just fast enough to where you can kind of get away with having maybe a more Rice-oriented player get in there to deal with these LN streams. Sure, you kind of have to pay attention to those releases, but you can finagle your way to a good score, especially if your more LN-oriented player doesn't have the speed to keep up with the density requirements. So it will be 7Ken backing up Cub and Siloesca Els. They have been holding their own on these LN picks, and like we were saying, maybe not the most optimal pick in our opinion, but you got to rip that band-aid off before too long. They were going to have to pick this one way or another if they wanted to really play to their team's strengths for this match.
Yeah, but it's looking like everybody is ready right here. This is going to be the lineup. Canada continuing with this LN roster. And as we have been seeing, honestly, these LN maps have been getting closer and closer, or these points in general have been getting closer and closer. So maybe this will be the time where a breakpoint happens. Honestly, there is a pretty big chance just because of how close that last LN map was.
Yeah, for sure. This is quickly teetering on a bit of a knife's edge. I feel like Philippines playing with a little bit of fire as we get deeper and deeper into this match. But I mean, you can't win if you don't buy a ticket. So you're gonna have to get through this. And right now, it's a pretty even start for both of these countries. Just separated by tenths in terms of accuracy. 7Ken bringing up the rear in that 98-99% mark. Followed closely behind by all three Canadians right now, but Cub finding the first break on that transition out of that burst, and that's gonna give Canada the lead for the moment here.
Yeah, we're actually seeing a flip for these two rosters right here. Normally, Dale is actually the one having the lowest accuracy in the lobby, but we actually see the Philippine players having that instead, and that's really keeping this lead in favor. Though even with that miss from Cub, the lead is only 2,000, and that is not honestly that much. We will have to see a few more breaks if Canada wants to have even better lead.
Yeah, for sure. I think right now the bulk of this Canadian lead is starting to get torn into off the back of players like Cub and Siloesca Els. Siloesca Els highest accuracy in this lobby by a considerable margin and able to really keep May at bay, and every tenth that May drops, they did have the highest accuracy for Canada, still has it at the moment, but as they start to fall here, it really does bring the Philippines back into the picture, despite the fact that there are still 5 FCs left on the board here. Any hiccups from the Canadian roster and this lead is immediately going to flip over in favor of the Philippines. Last third of the chart left to go. This is still catchable, even with accuracy low. It doesn't even have to come down to a mistake from Canada. Philippines is just going to take this by raw accuracy alone as it stands.
Yeah, this lead is slowly but surely moving in favor of the Philippines. It is now less than 1,000 points, and really anything can move it, and it's now flickering. It is so close. The accuracy on the Philippines needs to stay as high as possible, and Canada needs to try their best to lower their 200 count as much as possible if they are able to. This lead seems to stay in favor of the Philippines right now, but it's so close. It's literally based off a ratio alone. So Celestials trying their best to keep their team up as high as possible. But actually, I believe the 200 came out for the Philippines, and that's moved the lead in favor of the Canadian squad.
Oh my goodness, this was teetering on a knife's edge. They were playing tug of war for so long, but Canada, after 5 maps down on the 6th one here, managed to find the first breakpoint, the opening that they needed to really take control of this match. And oh my goodness, Sun Apple, that was way too close for comfort.
Honestly, it was like 1k difference for a solid minute, and even just throughout the entire map, it was around 2,000. That was so close. Philippines had the chance. If even a few less 200s coming out from 7can, or a few better ratio from any of the Philippines players, could have possibly actually swung that map in favor of the Philippines. But we will be seeing a breakpoint for Canada, and that is so good for this Canadian squad, who still have so many Rice maps to pick from, and we will be seeing Matt Silver actually being played. That is going to be Rice 4.
Yeah, this feels like the next logical pick for the Canadians. Not really wanting to get into the more dedicated speed-oriented pick in Rice 1, but not really wanting to dip a toe into the pure tech picks either. This feels like the last comfortable bastion before some hard decisions are going to be needing to be made for the Canadians. So we'll see how this one goes. Opportunity does present itself to the Philippines if things swing out in their favor, but with the way Canada's been playing so far, it doesn't feel like they're going to give up this breakpoint that easily.
Yeah, that is something to note. Canada has been playing a lot more of the standard, I guess more simple Rice maps that have been available to them, going from 2, 3, and now to Rice 4 being the Korjak map. Probably the most simplest map you can really think of in terms of price in general right now. But that being said, just because it's simple doesn't mean it's really easy. It'll really be an accuracy war, as we have been seeing the past few maps. And this map is a bit shorter, and Philippines actually had quite good accuracy on that Rice 3 map that we saw. It was mainly off those breaks, just off of stamina alone. So Philippines does have the actual chance to be able to take this map as a breakpoint if they really are able to just hold their combo as much as possible and get as high of accuracies on anything.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of those maps where so many things can go so wrong in an instant. It just takes one little blip to really send your team score down the gutter. And we saw it last weekend. Hopefully it doesn't happen to either of these rosters and it's just a good, clean ACK battle. But pushing 153 BPM, Korjaks really do start to get black and white. And we're going to see these players push to their limits to maintain some of the most pristine accuracy we have seen in this tournament on this particular skill set.
Yeah, but with that being said, accuracy isn't always a very big thing in terms of Korjaks. If everybody doesn't FC, even a miss can just swing the lead over to the other team, even if they have slightly worse accuracy. We are kind of seeing that happening right now. This lead is only 1,000. So 200s ratio, a miss can definitely swing the lead over, and we are halfway through the map.
Oh, and there's the first drop. 7can finding the first miss for the side of the Philippines. And like you were saying, all it really does take in the face of pristine accuracy is that one miss, and it immediately skyrocketed in favor of Canada. 9,000 points in their favor as we make our way into the back half of the chart. A bit of a scattered flam race notes section to kind of cleanse the palate before we dive back into the Korjaks, but everybody navigates it beautifully, and it does give 7can actually an opportunity to get back over that 400 combo cap before diving back in to the Korjaks before this transition into the last quarter of the chart. So not out of the woods just yet if you are Canada, but looking very good to try and take this point.
Yeah, and this is the densest section of the map, a big chance for Canada to take a break or two, and I think that's going to be needed for Philippines, but 7can taking a break is definitely not going to help them as much as possible. This lead is leading up to 20k, and 7can taking a third miss, and I think that'll be it. And with Celestials breaking, I think that's going to be it. Canada should be able to take this 5th point right here.
And indeed, they do, successfully capitalizing on that breakpoint from LN2 and really taking control of this match as it stands, putting the Philippines in a bit of a predicament here. And they're going to opt to go for the protect here. LN1 right off the rip. No deliberation needed. They know what they need to do to get themselves back into this match potentially. And it's going to start on LN1 here.
Yeah, and really, Philippines is to try their best to get as many breakpoints as possible, because after this, it'll be really, really difficult for them, considering if Canada even are able to take 1 point, because they will be on their breakpoint. This is Philippines Protect, so definitely something that is really good for them. They will most likely be able to take this win, hopefully, and if that's the case, then morale will be as high as possible as they probably can be at in this Philippines roster, especially considering how good of a leader Celestia Els has been in like other tournaments.
Yeah, for sure. At the very least, they'll be able to keep their heads up. I think the worst thing in this sort of situation is getting down on yourself and losing confidence in your ability to potentially claw this back. It's not over yet. There is an extra point needed to get for both countries. So it's always a case where that last point's the hardest one to get. So it's going to be up to Canada to prove that they can clinch this. And for the Philippines, really just putting it out all on the table. They can't afford to find any more break points lest their tournament run ends here.
And these are dire situations for the Philippines right now. Definitely don't want to be going out of this tournament so early. Or not necessarily so early, since semifinals is honestly pretty far in.
I would say early for their standards.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had the Philippines touted as a potential podium finisher, or at least a top 4 contender, that seeing them go out in the semifinals like this would be maybe a bit of a letdown in terms of the standards that they've set for themselves. But I mean, it is what it is. You're going up against a really good country in Canada, and there's still 2 points left for them to get. They're not done just yet, and they're going to try and do it on their protect here as Canada starts to sort out their roster a little bit. I think they had an extra member just lingering in the lobby, and now that they're gone, we can get things underway. The LN roster is going to be Walmart 5193, Dale 940, May 0149 going up against Cub 03, Celestia Els, and APOL.
Yeah, it is interesting to see that Canada, the whole Canada roster has numbers, which is kind of funny, whereas Cub being the only one for the Philippines, Cub 03. But seeing the original rosters for both these teams for LNs is going to be interesting. Really will be interesting to see this difference between APOL and 7can from the other map. We do see APOL, I believe, taking an early 200s, which is not all that bad considering Philippines still has the accuracy lead, and Dale kind of struggles a bit more on these kinds of release-based LNs.
Yeah, we can already see them lingering in that low 99% mark. Gonna really be up to them to hold on to the combo. I think that's really their mission here, as May actually finds the first drop for the Canadians, and that's a pretty substantial drop as well, really leaving Walmart alone on an island to try and fend off the likes of Celestia Els, who has about 4/10 of an advantage in terms of accuracy over them. And I mean, the Philippines right now looking really good out of the break here, as May finds another break to extend this lead, as Dale follows suit as well. We're not even into the first chorus here. Things haven't really even gotten dense yet, and it's 20,000 points in favor of the Philippines.
Yeah, Canada's definitely struggling a lot more on this than Super Duco world. Philippines so strong. Everybody loved 99.6, whereas no one really is that close on the Canadian squad besides Walmart, but even then they're a 10th of a point away. So let's get Els to take a break, but I don't think that's going to be enough considering the 20k gap about.
Yeah, for sure. Where one falls, the other takes over. APOL now bearing the torch for the Philippines at the moment. 99.7 for them, being helped out by Cub at the moment. Still a very healthy 5-digit lead in favor of the Philippines as we cross the threshold into the back half of the chart. Canada not out of this just yet, but they're going to need a little bit of help to claw this lead back, and that's going to be the start of it. Celestia Els finding another break, but they have been the only break for the Philippines so far. 2 FCs still left on their side, keeping this, or at least stemming the bleeding a little bit as she starts to make the road to recover. But a slider break on the build-up here. Not really able to build up any combo, but it does get traded this time by May, but Cub falls as well.
Yeah, there's just constant trades coming out from both sides right here, but I believe those early misses from Canada are actually affecting this lead by quite a bit. This, considering how many misses have actually happened, this lead has not increased by all that much. It's only 15k. Cub and Dale both trading, and that lead is still in favor of the Philippines, mainly off of accuracy alone. Here we see Apol with a 99.7, and that is just so good. Walmart being the only FC on this Canadian squad is still only is still 0.2% below that, and that's really just the difference maker for this map right here.
Yeah, last quarter chart left to go, about 17,000 points for the Philippines to work with. It's off the work that they did very early on in this chart, able to hold on to some monstrous accuracy, some monstrous combo as well. And they're really kind of living off of it right now, able to tank through some of these misses. And as this chart reaches its last eighth, it's pretty much all to do for Canada at the moment. The Philippines looking really good on their protect, very comfortable overall, at least in comparison to their Canadian counterparts. Now it looks like they're going to be able to keep themselves alive for at least 1, 2, maybe 3 more maps as they try to build the bridge back to contest against Canada and make it 3-5 now.
Yeah, we see 990k from Apol. That is really good. But it is now Canada's pick, and they have a chance to make this a breakpoint right here. They still need to win 2 more maps, and honestly, it'll be interesting to see which 2 maps they will opt to try to even win. I would suspect they still have a lot of the rice pool open, but with that being said, this is still, I guess, the more not standard rice map. We have Rice 1 being the most standard as a speed map, but the rest are kind of really awkward to play in general.
Yeah, basically the decision needs to be made here and now. Do you want to stick with the more standard rice picks, or do you want to dive into that tech pool of the rice pool? And those are 3 very abrasive charts to read through, especially at this late stage of this match. You start to wonder if stamina becomes a bit of an issue, not for the length of the chart, but just for everything that gets thrown at you. It's basically a bit of a gamut you have to slog through, and navigating this portion, like I said, the last points in a match are always the hardest ones to get, because you start to really pinch the comfort levels of your team, and finding the right one is always the hardest thing to do, because you don't want to give that breakpoint over. And it looks like it's going to be Hollywood Squares coming through, so Rice 6 for Canada to try and make this a match point situation now.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that I was kind of thinking of. This is more of our dumpy pick for this Canadian squad, so it is, I guess, a bit more simple. That's really a hard word to say in terms of this map, just because of how it's really hard to be able to get good accuracy on this map in general. And it is decently short at 2 minutes 19 seconds. We did see Philippines actually having a decent scoring even on Matt Silver in those early sections, as long as they didn't miss. So there is still a chance for Philippines to be able to take this breakpoint, and if they do, honestly, this lead may seem really big right now, but a breakpoint can definitely help that Philippines roster just continue to make a snowball effect, kind of continually taking these points and maybe even tying it up at some point. And honestly, tiebreakers would be super interesting, especially in this first match of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Haven't seen too many of those throughout this tournament, but as we start to narrow down the amount of countries left, the relative skill level of these countries really starts to reach a point of parity, and I imagine we're gonna see it come out before too long, but that's a conversation for way later. The Philippines still needs to find 2 breakpoints and a pick of their own to at least talk about the tiebreaker, as looks like the players are ready. The more rice-oriented roster for Canada checks in, and see if the Philippines can do it. It's got to start here.
Yeah, it definitely does got to start here. This is probably one of the most important picks for this Philippines roster. I mean, they are able to have another chance to take a breakpoint, but honestly, you don't want to be on the back board, just kind of in the back seat, really just having to fight really hard for every single map possible. But we will be starting off right here. These are going to be the lineups for both the teams. no real big difference right now.
Yeah, it's a real aggressive burst to start this map off. Not the hardest to read through, just a bit of an appetizer for what is to come. Like you mentioned, this is a bit of a more dump-oriented pick, so there's going to be some real off-the-wall snappings for the players to try and read through on that. And on that elevated OD 8.3, it's really going to test your precision as you get deeper and deeper into the chart. Right now, the Philippines up to the task for the moment. 2,000 points in their favor through this opening gauntlet. This is arguably their best opportunity to try and get one of these breakpoints back, especially with the start that they're having. Oh, but Celestia Ellis finds a break on the transition, but it's not by that big of a margin. It's a relatively clean break, but it does give Canada a bit of a margin to work with now.
Yeah, but with that being said, the lead is so small, we do see a flicker in favor of Philippines, so there is still a chance a break can happen on the Canadian squad. Their accuracy for Canada is actually not that great, and compared to the Philippines right now, this lead is only 3,000, so a break can still definitely swap the lead in favor of Philippines, or even a rush of 200s alone could do that. And we are halfway through this map. Cub actually being the one to find a break, and that is not what you want to see if you are rooting for Philippines. Celestia Els again dropping, and that is not great. This lead has expanded so quickly into that 19k mark. Cub taking another one is not helping it at all. All the Canadian players are just standing so strong in the hardest section of the map, and accuracy really doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, a couple misses for the road. The Canadians being able to bolster their lead off the back of these 3 FCs as we get into the only real break of the chart. Dale actually finding a break on this calm section, maybe just overhitting a little bit, getting ahead of themselves, but it only puts a small sliver into their small dent into their lead as Celestia Ellis eventually trades it back here. And what was going oh so well for the Philippines, in with a bit of a shout, quickly falls apart at the seams off the back of two of their players breaking. And as this chart comes to an end, I think arguably their best opportunity to claw a breakpoint back goes by the wayside, and Canada makes it a match point situation, and it is now 3-6.
Yeah, and Canada at match point, this is really not great for Philippines. Also, you got to consider they have no more LN maps to even pick. They only have hybrids. They have hybrid 2 and hybrid 3, unless they want to go for whatever reason into that rice bowl if they are feeling confident on one specifically. But I would suspect just they're going to be picking hybrid 2, hybrid 3 right back to back if they have the chance. Honestly, yeah. I don't know which one they should be picking. I have heard that hybrid 3 is the harder one, so most likely not that, but honestly it's looking like they're going to opt to pick that.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be hybrid 3. Was initially hybrid 2, looks like it was a bit of a typo. And it is going to be Libidum coming out for the Philippines here. Like you're saying, this is a bit of a tough one. Which of these 2 hybrids do you go for to give yourself the best opportunity? The one downside to these hybrids is that there's enough rice difficulty to keep players in it if you're a more LN-oriented team, and maybe the LN difficulty they can get through with just enough accuracy to scrape by to make it a bit more of a fight than you were expecting. And the Philippines actually going to take a timeout here, maybe just give themselves a bit of time to mentally prepare themselves for what is to come.
Yeah, and I also do want to let players know that honestly this pick does make quite a bit of sense, considering that 7ken is really well known for having super good physicality and being able to basically FC a lot of maps on command, even with not the best act, but just an FC alone is going to be really good, especially if we do think about this map as the hardest hybrid in the map pool. Being able to FC it alone is super good, and obviously Celestia Els being good all around, having really good accuracy will also be helping them out. But we really do have to think about the 2 players on Canada, the 2 top players on Canada here, who will be most likely playing Walmart and May. Both of them who are in the lobby. May kind of having the same thing as 7ken, however, honestly, I feel like they will have the slightly higher AC. But Walmart being a bit less physical, honestly, than Celestia Els. And that may be the difference maker, just the AC from Semifinals and May, and the combo from Walmart and Celestica Els, and whoever the third player is going to be for these two themes, since honestly I have no clue. It's looking like Philippines is going to opt for A-Fall, but they did time out, so it may be swapped at some point.
Yeah, I think that third player just basically sign of a cross, hang on for the ride, and pray, because you do not want to be that third person, the third wheel that costs your team the point. And we are getting into the timeout now, so 2 more minutes for the Philippines to just deliberate as to what the best lineup, the best line of attack on this chart is going to be. They have no more room for error from here on out. Canada looking to take another breakpoint to clinch this match. Worst case scenario, they don't win this, they go right back into that rice pool, and you ask the question again, what does the Philippines do to try and take some of these breakpoints back?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they kind of just go for hybrid 2. It's not really that big of a... unless they feel really confident on, like, some sort of rice map, I don't really see why they don't pick rice 2 or hybrid 2 at that point. But I feel like this map alone is going to be the turning point. If Philippines are able to actually win this map, it'll show a big, just like a big morale boost for this Philippines team, who had just lost, who is at this match point. The back's against the wall, the worst possible situation you can really be. If you are able to win this map, it'll be just so good for your team. And it's the hybrid, or not the hybrids, the rice right now are still quite close, honestly, especially considering how, I guess, how difficult they are. They are still pretty close. If the Philippines are able to take a few FCs, even like 1 or 2 of them are somehow able just to skill boost in that one map, take an FC, and Canada do take a few misses, they do have the opportunity to take a breakpoint or 2. And yeah, but it really all needs to start right here.
Yeah, this is the ultimate breaking point. This is basically the last toothpick holding the pillar of hope for the Philippines. They need to be able to withstand this hybrid to even have a hope of having the conversation of trying to take one of these rice picks. Hollywood Squares looked really good for the Philippines up until it didn't. If they can repeat that performance on something like Rice 5 or Rice 7, they do have a chance. They're not out of this yet. Canada needs to prove that they're good enough to knock out a powerhouse like the Philippines out of this tournament. And we're going to get into it. The timeout is over. It is going to be A-Pulse, Celestica Els, and 7can looking to make their last stand against the Canadians, Walmart, Piggy, and May.
Yeah, and we see the third players on Philippines, A-Pol and Piggy, and honestly, they're both very big wild cards for this map alone. We are just getting through this break real quick, and then we'll actually be getting into the map right here. And this is something that you will want to be watching. Keep your eyes straight on every single one of these players. It is important that they all get as good of accuracy as possible. A-Pol and Piggy both taking breaks. It's traded, but A-Pol actually having the higher accuracy is definitely helping that Philippines team right now.
Yeah, for sure. And this is 2 players you highlighted. It's going to be this battle between A-Pol and Piggy for large durations of this chart. Everybody else has their tasks, and Walmart's actually the first one to fall on the side of Canada. Going to give a pretty substantial lead to the side of the Philippines to work with right out of the gate here to start this map off. A lot of players lingering in that mid to low 99% mark. 7can and May find the trade, but Piggy adds it as well in favor of the Philippines at the moment. Despite 7can actually finding a couple of drops here, they are getting traded back, but Celestica Els falls. Highest accuracy for the Philippines falls, and A-Pol falls as well. All 3 FCs gone. A full combo reset on the side of the Philippines for Canada to work with. Despite Piggy falling, it is a 7,000 point swing in favor of the Canadians as May falls as well, and we are swinging right back and forth. Haymakers going left and right, going into the back half of this chart already.
Everyone is taking 1 or 2 drops on basically every single section. These leads are not stable at all. Even though it looks like it's an 11k lead, honestly, it could really be any kind. It's as soon as the map goes back into these LN sections, we see so many people just dropping. May taking a break a break right before the actual break. And honestly, this lead seems really big, especially compared to the other maps that we have been seeing, but it really isn't that massive. Piggy taking another break, definitely helping this Philippines roster have the ability to take as many misses as they can. And we are getting to this last quarter. A-Pol taking a break, which is immediately traded back by Walmart. And I just want to add, Celestica Els having this 99.6 is definitely helping that team so much. 7can and also trading, but this is just constantly saying in favor of the Philippines.
We make our way into the last sliver of chart, and I think the Philippines has done enough. There were some wild swings to start this map off, and despite a final miss from 7ken, it is still a 28,000 point victory in favor of the Philippines, and they keep themselves alive for at least one map longer, giving the ball back to Canada. And bit of a big decision for the Canadians to work through now. They are on match point. They do have the virtue of a couple of breakpoints in the back pocket, so they do have some leverage here to work with. But which Rice map do you want to go for here?
Yeah, honestly, it is a decently difficult decision on Canada. They have what, Rice 1, Rice, I think 5 and 6. Honestly, I would be in if I was in this. Okay, so they have Rice 1, Rice 5, and then Rice 7. If I'm in this Canadian roster, I see that I've been doing really, really well on this more physical kind of map, especially considering just like how much they've been playing it. So I would be going Rice 7, but also Rice 1 has been looking appealing considering how much they have been playing this more simple map. But we will be actually seeing Rice 7.
Yeah, Rice 7 comes through. One of the two Frums charts we have in this pool, and I mean it was gonna have to come out one way or another. And I mean, Philippines, like I said, looked really good on Hollywood Squares. Maybe they're up to the task of taking one of these more tech-oriented Rice picks. And if they do, then, oh boy, I think Hybrid 2 is on the horizon right afterwards. And some pretty interesting conversations about a potential tiebreaker coming through. But they're gonna have to win this. There is no other way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean, we saw on that Hybrid 3, a lot of the technical patterns were kind of getting to everybody on this player list. Mm-hmm. So there is a chance for these players to take breaks, especially the Canadian players to take breaks and kind of swing the lead in favor of the Philippines. And if that is the case, I'm not gonna say it, but there's a chance. There is a chance, and honestly, I believe in this Philippines team to be able to get even 1 or 2 FCs. If they are able to get 1 or 2 FCs, I actually do think this Philippines team has a chance of being able to get to that tiebreaker point, winning that Hybrid 2 if they do opt to pick it.
Yeah, it's an important caveat to look at if they do decide to pick it, because if they feel like they are confident to take some of these tech picks off of Canada, then Rice 5 gets opened up, and we can maybe explore that later if things go the way of the Philippines. But as it stands right now, this is Canada's potential last pick to clinch this match. And again, we're in that same situation. The Philippines, no room for error. Canada on the cusp of punching their ticket into the second half of the semifinals weekend. Can they do it? Or is Philippines going to continue the ball rolling down the hill? Remains to be seen.
Yeah, just starting us off, 7ken taking an early break. It doesn't really matter all that much, especially considering how difficult this map is, and it being in the first 400 notes isn't that huge of a deal, but we will see a lead in favor of Canada just for the start.
Yeah, as we cross that 400 combo cap, then we can start talking about accuracy, but Canada right now riding off of that singular miss at the moment. All 3 other players holding accuracies above that 99.7 mark. That being said, 7ken aside, both Cub and Silhouette's L is able to cancel out Dale and May for the moment. And as the BPM starts to feel like it ramps up later and later into this chart, it gets harder and harder to read through. The ability to maintain combo on a chart like this is absolutely paramount, because if you start finding yourself slipping one too many and you immediately swing that lead back over, we've already seen some really impressive swings back and forth between these two countries. It is 8,000 points in favor of the Canadians going into the back half of the chart already. There is not a lot of room for error, especially as we cross into this later half. A miss this late on would be absolutely devastating one way or the other.
Yeah, and keep in mind, May has actually been struggling a bit more on not physicality, on consistency. So there is a high chance that they are able to take a break or two in this last quarter of the map. So Philippines is able to just hang tight as much as possible after that break, if it does come. And I actually do think there's still a chance. The lead is only 8k. That is really, really small considering how difficult this map is. We are getting into this last section of the map. Everybody hitting it super, super well. But as I say, the Silhouette's going to L's and Cub taking a break at the exact same time. And that just swings the lead in favor of Canada even more. And it's going up to this 30k point lead.
Yeah, it is incredible how quickly leads can spiral out of control. 7 falls, Cub falls, GD Men falls. Everybody is starting to find their breaks in this last burst. But when all is said and done, Canada will be the ones moving on from this matchup by a score of 7-4, knocking one of the tournament favorites in the Philippines out of the Mania World Cup.
Man, that's crazy to think about. Canada is actually going to be the one to move up into this next next round for the semifinals. Honestly, this match was super, super close considering the kind of circumstances that Philippines did have. Canada played super, super well on those LNs, so honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Able to take that one break point, and it really did feel like that was the turning point in this match. So once again, congratulations to the Canadians. Not done for the weekend just yet, but one step closer to that finals weekend. Commiserations to the Philippines once again, putting up a valiant effort given all the circumstances presented before them and doing it with the professionalism that they have been known for. And with that being said, that will do it for this match. We'll be taking quite a hefty break before we bring you guys more semifinals action. But there's one order of business left to take care of. Sunapple, is there something that people watching at home can do to support any of the countries in the Osmania 4K World Cup?
Honestly, I'm really bad at quizzes.
Don't worry.
I'm not good at these pop quizzes. Sparky, can you tell me what people can do to support their countries?
I am so glad you asked. You can support your countries by going over to the OS store and buying yourself a banner. For the low cost of $2.50 USD, you too can support your favorite country, even if they have been eliminated from this tournament. Help grow the prize pool that little bit more to really show the appreciation to the players for putting in the countless hours, the blood, the sweat, the tears, to bring you guys the most heart-stopping action imaginable. But yeah, with that being said, there will be about a 9-hour break. The next match will take place at 11:30 UTC between Thailand and China. And Sunapple, I don't know about you, but I think we should say goodbye for now.
Yeah, I kind of just want to say be sure to watch the next few matches. They're all super, super interesting. But that's going to be it for me. Goodbye, everyone. Have a good night, morning, evening, whatever time zone you're in. Goodbye.
Take care, y'all.